as fast as I can. The first thing is about HIV denialism. There are people that everybody thinks it's just a joke. It's not important. But they are important. They're having an impact in some places in the world. And they're now focused on Mexico because their goal is visibility and aggrandizement. And the next international meeting is in Mexico. I have no doubt that our leader of that society, Mark Kaplan, will have this sword out, flame, as he already put his neck out, more than anybody in North America. Well, maybe along with John Moore, who's not here, who's also played a major role in fighting this. And it's great to have George Klein in Europe involved and Gus Nossel in Australia. The problem is not getting less, it's getting worse. People die from this, and it's not even funny anymore. We like to say, oh, they're just, we call them the denialists, I call them the irrationalists, narcissists, because it really is getting worse. Everybody should know about it. There's probably as many as 100, and that damn internet, for all its greatness, is a horror, because they're all linked. And it's like, I'm going to argue with, Niels Bohr on quantum mechanics. They can all say they know more than Roman does on the biology of retroviruses. And they do. They become instant experts. And they communicate with each other and tell the world as if they are expert. And people have died because of it. I think the second thing on my mind is always talked about. It's a word that we perhaps overuse, but it's true. I don't know a better word. And that's the complacency that exists in the industrial world now that age is treatable. People think, well, it's not a problem anymore. And along with that goes funding problems. Those of you outside of HIV and AIDS research may say, what are they talking about? There's a lot of money for AIDS research. But basic science grants from NIH have dropped from 28 to 8% in the last year. And the National Institute of Health, the Allergy and Infectious Disease, is funding the vaccine companies for vaccine trials. They never did that in the past. It's hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm always told it doesn't come out of the basic science funds, but I don't know what happened to the basic science funds. When you add to this the social, in quote, sciences, argue, and I've had this on this trip, doesn't basic science take the money away from what's really important? The education, the condoms, the social, just really education, intervention kind of things. And we have to, it's defensive, but my strong reaction back is that, with the exception of what Bill Hasseltine said today about the early epidemiology by CDC, every single practical advance in HIV and AIDS research came from basic science. Just think about it, from soup to nuts. And it began before we began. By people in the room, by people dead, and by people who can't be in the room. So this is really a struggle right now. We don't really have a lot of power. I don't really find myself in a position to say too much. The denialists and these people, well, the denialists get their strength from Duisburg and a little bit still from Kerry Mullis. And more scientists have to be aware of it. The third thing I want to say is that we get asked a lot about the future of epidemic. We don't know the future of the epidemic. Nobody knows. Because we can't predict human habits in the future, continuation of government commitments in the future, and the will of the society in the future. So that's the third thing I wanted to say. The divisiveness between laboratory science and the rest of the things I said. The complacency issue, the denialism, and the epidemic's future, which we don't know. We can't say, Bill Blattner gave me a wonderful slide, awful slide, makes the point. 258,000 people die of AIDS every month. 253 or 4 die of the tsunami. It's a tsunami a month. It merits the same interest as a tsunami a month. And I'll end with the obvious, what we need for the future. All the scientists here know, but perhaps it's worth for a few people that are not in the field to think about what we have to have from the science. Well, non-science, obviously we have to get the drugs more and more to people in developing nations. Bill's trying that valiantly, hard, and in the last 2 years, he's been able to make a great difference. Our board chairman is Kathleen Kennedy. It's wonderful to hear that, I think it's her niece, is getting this award at the same time. These people allow this award to be given anywhere. They called me and said, where are you going to receive this? So I knew about it. And the first reaction of our institute was, oh, have it in Washington or Baltimore, New York. Use it as a fundraiser. You get a lot of publicity. Then we thought, they're in London, they're in Europe really. And some of there are at least 1 or 2 chambers of those 4 chambers are in Italy. They have offices, I think, in Milan. So why not just get it all over with and have it here? So that's what we're doing. Anyway, Bill, you know better than me what's going on there. You know that it feels good to be treating thousands and thousands of people in Africa, whether it's 5,000 in Baltimore, but it's still, to use that hackneyed phrase, the tip of the iceberg. We're not alone. There are other people that have these PEPFAR grants, and there are other people that have other sources of money in the United States, and I know in Europe too. But maybe, Bill, what do you think you'll reach next year between you and Bob? What's your goal for next year?
60,000.
Oh, you dropped it. I thought it was 100. I've been talking to people 100,000. Sounds so good, 100,000. Oh, okay. Well, for some reason we just need some cut in the budget, I guess. Okay, so there's, out of the 2 things remaining that I want to say, we do need new drugs. Everybody heard from Mark Wiener, and periodically in the meeting, the great problem of resistance. I thought Baltimore was special, with 50% of the patients being multi-drug resistant. And with Bob Redfield telling me that 15% of people in Baltimore new in the clinic are multi-drug resistant. So what will happen in Africa? There will be multi-drug resistance. And maybe it'll be worse. Bill said it's a surprise. We do better there than we do in the United States. It's not true. We can't do it there. But it means we constantly need new approaches to therapy, which means we need basic science. New therapies, as Bill Hazeltine brought up today, can come from detailed understanding of HIV replication. I would have added one sentence, Bill, that would also be study of HIV pathogenesis, because one new approach is going to be activation inhibitors. If we can do it safely, we're going to be targeting cellular proteins as well. So far, we knock on wood in America. I don't know if we do it here. The scientific community with the pharmaceutical industry has been staying up with the virus. There is a parallel problem. Almost anywhere I go in the world, there's a discussion like maybe I own the pharmaceutical companies, and a lot of them are from Europe. They want all the drugs free. If you ever take a stand, one step slightly, to explain that we have to know what they can afford to do before they walk away from the problem, they'll think you're paid by the pharmaceutical industry. So I tell you that to spare you some of the things I had to go through when you start explaining. We have to know what they're making. If they're making too much, we fight altogether. But if we know they've reached the end, I've heard some of them say they'll just walk out of the field. We need them, I think. And certainly for new approaches, we can't do it alone. And lastly, and ingeniously, I will tell you we need a vaccine. And our institute has an approach. We think we're on the right track. Not everybody here, not most people here would probably agree, but it's going along through a spin-off company called Profectus and with collaboration with Wyeth. I would love someday to be able to talk about it with a better voice, but I'm sure it'll be with a much less